And we are live. Let's get y'all some man DL Saint. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I really want to know podcast, man. What's going on, y'all? I know I've been gone. I know this is late. This is not the normal time. I know all that. I know. But a hurricane hit, guys. I had to evacuate. We left. We went to Georgia. We came back a day after the storms was over, and Tampa is picking up the pieces, man. It's a lot of pieces to pick up. So I'm going to be back on schedule tomorrow, I think. Well, I'll definitely be back on schedule on Monday. But I'm going to do a more planned out episode on what's going on with this insurance thing. But I wanted to jump on real quick just to talk. I did a show today with my man, Jay Swans. It was just recorded that he and I just had a conversation. Shout out to him. It's up now, guys. We just did it a couple hours ago. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. It was a cool little conversation. There's a lot of talk about Kamala Harris, the black vote, the black male vote, what's going on with this election. This election is extremely close. So we were talking about that. Some good stuff out there, bro. And it was kind of cool. Brother Michael's in the building. I see you, Phil. Appreciate all the love, man. Appreciate, man. So yeah, we're just gonna jump on here just real quick, man. And I was gonna just call this an open mic kind of thing, but you know what? I'm gonna talk a little bit about what's going on. Ken McElroy has a video out talking about insurance in particular in Florida, but it's affecting the whole country. And you know what? I'm like, this would be kind of cool. Let's just jump on here, have this conversation, see who's up. We might have some people jump on, pop in, just have a conversation and see, just see where it goes. That's the plan. That's what we're doing. So let's get into it. And we are live. What's good, y'all? Welcome to the I Really Want to Know podcast, y'all. Some indeed. Shout out to you guys. It was good to be back. Shout out to brother Dinosaur hitting me up. And everyone brother Michael in the chat right now, and everyone's out there watching. Shout out to all the new folks out there. We got a lot of people who be watching from the clouds. I appreciate y'all. Do me a favor, hit that like. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe. If you've been with me for a long time, check to see if you're still with me. YouTube will remove you from certain platforms and you won't know it. So just check to see if you're still with me. And if you're not still with me, just go ahead and resubscribe. Appreciate it. Shout out to Shushu. Shushu hit me up and first of all, she was just checking to make sure me and the family were okay. Then she hit me up yesterday, I think it was. And she sent me a TikTok video. You guys know I don't have TikTok, but when some people send me a video, I'll look at it. But I don't do TikTok because that's a weapon against America. It is what it is. Right. But it was a dude on there's a white guy on there talking about the election, talking about Kamala Harris, and we're just making points. Like if you're a man of, this, if you're in this community or this community, if you're here, you're there, and you considering not voting for Kamala Harris, I don't understand why. He put some real good points down there. And I agree with 90% of what he was saying. He was saying some stuff about reproductive rights, which we don't have as men, but I get where he was coming from. It would seem that, the extreme Republicans would like to take the woman's right to choose away. If they had it their way, they would not allow you to delete or terminate a pregnancy anywhere in America. So the guy was talking about that, and he was like, he made some good points, and that is why I sent that to Jay Swans, and then we kind of had a talk. So I hope you guys go check it out. Let me know. Hit those comments up over there. Let me know what y'all think. And again, it was just a conversation between me and Jay Swans. Nothing fancy, no bells and whistles, no intro, no outro, no nothing. But today, guys, on this session, I want to talk about what's going on, with the insurance industry here in Florida. Now, I've been talking about this for a while, for as long as I've been living in Florida. And I think we've gotten to a point where it's all coming to a head. The current governor doesn't really have an answer for what's going on. What he's been doing has been very pro industry. He's been very pro business. The insurance business. He's really like kind of just caved to all the demands. And now, like we're in a situation where I think something's going to happen. So there's a video out here with Ken McElroy. Shout out to Ken McElroy. If you guys don't know who he is, I will link it in the video. I will link this in the description below, so you guys can go and check him out. Definitely subscribe over there. He is in the real estate business. He is into multifamilies, like big properties. He's a mover and shaker. He's a big wig. He knows what he's doing. He's in the markets. Like he's a mega landlord, right? The dude knows what he's doing, and he's talking about what's going on. And he made some very, very good points. And like, bro, like you look at America as a whole, you look at what it costs to buy a home these days, you look at interest rates, you look at, what people are making, you look at availability, you look at construction, you look at all these things. Right. And it's like, I've been talking about this, like, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but the median cost of a starter home, like a home in America, is around $415,000. Like that's to buy your first house. Right. And where, depending on where you are, of course, it's going to affect that. But the median price, 415,000. The median household it doesn't even make, over 90 grand a year. Median household income. That's that's two people working, generally speaking. Those numbers aren't even close to each other, nowhere. And then, so you look at the business, you look at what's going on in the commercial world versus the residential world, like you see what's going on, and then you add to the mix national, these natural disasters, tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires, and you need to insure these properties. And it's at a point now here in Florida, I believe that's it. It's done. No one's going to be able to afford a house because of what's going on with this insurance market. It is crazy. Brother Penny in the building. What's good, fam? Like W, Uncle DL. I'm happy to see that high spirits after Hurricane Milton passed through. Bro, man, listen, it took a while. Like it took a while. And actually having that conversation with my man Jay Swans, I was able to kind of, get back into the mindset. It's hard when you're dealing with this sort of thing, guys. Like my daughter's still out of school right now. They're not gonna try to get the kids into school until Thursday. They're hoping that the kids will be able to get in there. It's all kind of stuff. They just missed like a week of school for Helene, and then you had this. It's really tough. A lot of damage down here, a lot of wind damage, a lot of trees down, a lot of power lines down. Like a lot of people don't have power. There's still flooding down here. In parts of Central Florida, the rivers are actually rising. So it's crazy what's going on. This is just how it is. This is just, we might be entering some sort of weather cycle where this is going to be the norm, where storms are going to be coming up from the Caribbean or whatever, like from like the Gulf of Mexico and coming this way. That storm at one point was a Category 5. Thank goodness the water cooled a little bit, so the water wasn't as warm as it had been. If this could have been so much worse. If a Cat 5 storm had made landfall here at Tampa, coming from the Gulf, look what the Category 3 did. So just imagine the amount of damage that would have been done if that storm had been at 5 when it hit. And even still, like I don't like St. Pete, Clearwater, all the beach areas, from here down to Sarasota, Fort Myers, Fort Pierce, Fort Charlotte, all that stuff down south, and even on the East Coast, like Orlando and all those places. So much damage was done. And what happened with this particular hurricane that you don't normally see to this extent was the amount of tornadoes that this particular hurricane spawned when it made landfall. It was record number tornadoes. And those tornadoes did a lot of damage. Normally, you have a hurricane hit and it'll have some tornadoes, and like it'll spin down from these outer bands and touch ground or whatever, and then it would just dissipate, right? And this is not me. I'm not a weather expert. I know a little bit about weather because air traffic control and all that. We had to take a lot of courses on weather, but this is just from the talking heads and from the meteorologists and people like the storm chasers. They'll tell you like, with hurricanes, when they spawn a tornado, it may touch the ground and then that's it. It'll dissipate right away. Not this time. There's video out here, these tornadoes that were touching down in South and Central Florida. They look like they could have been in Kansas. They could have been in Ohio. They could have been right anywhere in the Midwest in Tornado Alley. These things were massive, massive things, like all down like Alligator Alley, which is, you know, between here and Fort Lauderdale. And they did so much damage. And this was before the storm actually hit. These tornadoes were in the outer bands. A lot of damage was done. A lot of people are just, I mean, just imagine you're trying to prepare for a hurricane, a tornado hits and rips the roof off of your house 30 minutes before the storm gets there. Like, think about that. 30 minutes before the worst part of the hurricane hits, your roof is gone. And then with the flooding, you know, the storm surge was high, not as high as they had anticipated, thank goodness, but it still was high. And so much flooding here in the Tampa area. Again, power is out. They're doing really, really good to get everything back up and running. You know, trying to clean up debris, trying to clean up, because people are just grabbing their stuff. It's all waterlogged or whatever, putting it on the street to be picked up. It's a mess. Guys, it's a mess down here. But I mean, this is, you know, it's life in Florida. This is how you get down. And a lot of people got worried right away, because even now there's a system out there in the Atlantic. Look like it could turn into something a little more than a tropical depression, maybe even as much as a Category 3 hurricane that's coming up through the Atlantic. And of course, it will have to hit Cuba and all that. And it may head for America. It may to the U.S. or it may not. And there's still some sort of system in the Gulf of Mexico that is where Helene and the other storm came from, Milton. There's a system there that's kind of brewing. But luckily there is I think it's a high pressure area, a front that's keeping that storm down there and not allowing it to kind of grow and move north or even northeast. But guys, that could change tomorrow. I mean, it is what it is. But, you know, let's get into what we came to talk about. This is Ken McElroy's people, man. I forget her name, but she works with him and she knows what she's talking about. She's very knowledgeable. I know a lot of people who like follow his platform, they complain about her sometimes, her tone, her cadence, but she knows what she talks like a girly girl, but she knows what she's talking about. You guys will see what I mean here in a minute. But they're talking about insurance. Now, Florida has a serious problem with insurance. They're going to touch on Florida a little bit. They're going to talk also a little bit about Texas and other states. When you look at this insurance thing that we're going to talk about, and I'm going to be talking about this more as well, probably maybe even like later this week, or definitely no later than Monday. I have a whole show with stuff so you guys can see what we're talking about. But I thought today it'd be kind of cool just to have this quick conversation. So when we do this other show, you guys know what I'm talking about. You know, insurance is a business. They don't want to have to pay out. They're trying to make money as well. So there are people out here having to deal with this, and they find out at the time that they need the money the most is when they find out, like, oh my God, this is a business. And if you didn't read the fine print, you might have a problem. And there's so many people down here in Florida who aren't even getting insurance. Like, you know, when you buy a home or whatever, like you get flood insurance is always different. And if you live in a flood zone, you're going to pay even more. And then you got to worry about these storms and what type of storm. And man, it's crazy, guys. It's crazy. And it's, you playing with people's emotions. Like, these people get real upset. And the way the way that they move and the way that they're doing things, like, bro, this could get somebody hurt. Right? This could really get someone hurt. Brother Mandrell's in the building. What's good, fam? But I really believe, like, people always talk about Black Swan events and this and that. I do believe that with this second storm and what's going on with the insurance industry here in particular in Florida, I think this is definitely a Black Swan event. This is going to be Ron DeSantis's legacy, because he definitely doesn't have a plan. And I don't know how he's going to get out of it. The only way to get out of the situation that I think is coming here in Florida is with some sort of help from the government, some sort of bailout from the government. And guys, I'm just here to tell you, the government just doesn't have the money like that. FEMA is under a lot of stress. There are a lot of natural disasters popping off in this country between the tornadoes, hurricanes, the wildfires, earthquakes. You know, it's crazy. And we got insurance companies who can't hold up their end of the bargain, and they're finding any and every way possible to get out of it. So let's definitely get into this. So again, this is Ken McElroy, and man, I cannot remember her name, but we're gonna listen to what they have to say about the Florida real estate just changed forever, everything you must know, and they're talking about these storms. So let's get into it.
20% of Floridians don't have property insurance, and a 350% increase in these insurance prices have made housing completely unaffordable.
I know people are. I've seen this over the years. I know we're going to talk more about this, but you guys got to know that these insurance rates are actually restricting investment in
Mhm.
those markets. Like we certainly made those decisions in Texas and in Florida, and any of the Gulf states specifically, because you can't make deals pencil.
Yeah, and even for the people that live there, like us sitting here, we're like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine not having property insurance because what if something like a hurricane or a fire or some kind of natural disaster comes along and it does damage or removes your home? But the truth is, people just can't afford it because, the insurance rates in Florida have just been crazy. And as I said before, 20% of people are choosing to go bear. So there's actually a term for it now because it's gained so much
It used to
popularity.
be different when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Go bear.
But anyway,
Oh,
so
all right.
yeah, okay. Anyways,
When the tide goes out,
so basically a lot of these people, one of the issues is you can't not have insurance if you still have a mortgage. So the
yeah.
people that are choosing to go bear are a lot of like retirees and seniors in Florida because they just can't afford these homeowner rates.
Well, I know you were doing a lot of research on this last week. This is a great topic.
So they're talking about going bare down here. So what do they mean about that? So there are people down here who have paid off their homes, right? Now think about it. A lot of people like, man, they must be rich, right? Hold on now. We're talking about people who've already been down here 15, 20, 25 years, maybe longer, right? They bought their places. They were getting ready for retirement. They got these places and they were paying the prices on these homes back then. So they're getting themselves a beach front place or someplace in some flood zone somewhere in Central Florida, maybe South Florida, wherever, that was say 250,000, which 15 years ago, man, that's a lot of money in Florida. Right? You got to understand that these rates, the cost of homes in Florida went through the roof just a few years ago. Just a few years ago. So if you got out here in like the early 2000s, or if you got out here in 2010, somewhere in there, bro, you can get yourself a really good place for a couple $100,000. Now you have people who like got in there, paid their mortgages off or whatever, and they're living where they want to live now. They're full blown retired. They're doing their thing, and it's like, well, they kept their coverage for as long as they could until it got unaffordable. So it's like now you got places, they're looking at these rates and they're getting these comps for their homes, and you're looking at, $5,000 a year to cover your house. You might be looking at six, seven, $8,000 a year to cover your house. You're looking at, just for insurance, you might be paying close to $1,000 a month, anywhere between $600 and $1,200 a month to get your place covered for a whole litany of reasons that they're going to go into in a minute. So people who own their properties were like, well, I'm just not going to get it. They're going bare. Now it's on them to pay if their roof gets blown off or if their place gets flooded or whatever. They're risking it. So that's what they mean by going bare. Like Ken was trying to drop some old school, some old school jokey jokes in there. Landed flat there, Ken. But it is what it is. Let's continue.
Topic, by the way,
Mhm.
and that's because of the cost.
Yeah, and it really does affect real estate. And Jerry, if you can play clip 1 for us.
It's called going bare, a growing trend among Florida homeowners.
We're probably the worst in the country given the way our rates have gone here. The Insurance Information Institute estimates between 15 and 18% of Floridians are going negative. They're going
That's a lot.
it's huge. It's about double what the nationwide percent is.
So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So why are people choosing to do this? Obviously, the cost. So, just to put it in perspective, just an average home in 2019 to insure was about $1,800, right, for the year, which is a little over $100 a month.
So, well, first of all, let's put that in perspective. That was only 5 years ago.
Right, it was only 5 years
Right?
ago. So I was looking at like $150 a month to have insurance in Florida.
5 years ago.
Now the average cost is between $6,000 and
I
$9,000.
see you've got here 66, 86 is kind of the average.
Yeah, that's
That's insane.
Yeah, that was the average in 2023. So it's went up since then. So it's between 6,000 and 9,000, which is like $500+ a month for insurance.
It's like 300 or 400%.
Did y'all hear that? You're looking at a 300 or 400% increase in your insurance cost in 5 years. Think about that, guys. 5 years. Now, if you're financing your home, like if you still have a mortgage, you have to have insurance. You have to. It'll affect your mortgage. If you can't afford a mortgage, you're gonna lose your home. But these are the people like, well, I already paid this off. Remember, they got in there and they bought these properties when the properties were like, 175, 250, maybe 300 grand. That was getting you a really nice spot. Now, that same property is probably listing for $600,000-$700,000. And we're talking about maybe 1,200 square feet, beachfront and all that kind of stuff, right? So we're not talking about the McMansions. They're sitting up on the, on the lake or whatever with the stilts with your boat parked out there. Nah, we ain't talking about that. We're talking about normal folks who just got them nice little parcel of land with a nice little house on there and they're retired. We're talking about them, right? You cannot continue dealing with that sort of increase to your premium. Like I said, old Joe in the building, man. Good to see you, fam. Let me give you another one.
So, I mean, a guy told me once, he's like, insurance companies don't really pay claims. What they do is they build it into the premiums next year.
Right. Yeah.
So
Well, and that's
whatever they pay, they charge you back.
And it's a lot what they do. And so, it's $6,000 to $9,000 this year, but it went up 42% nationwide last year. 42% in Florida last year. So if it's $6,000 to $9,000 right now, based on these two hurricanes and any more that we're going to see through hurricane season, it's going to go up astronomically again.
Let me tell you
next year.
something. Let me tell you who's subsidizing that. Whether you guys believe it or not, it's you. Like we're in Arizona. First of all, there's nothing that goes on here. Like if we have a hurricane, which that would be amazing. Actually, that's not true. It wouldn't be amazing, but there's no way we're going to have a hurricane in the middle of the country. There's no way. We don't have hailstorms and things like that. We have some things usually around mold or there is some wind, but nothing like a hurricane. The point is, though, my properties in Arizona went up 30% last year. So I had to pay another $1 million in insurance. And I asked my insurance guy, I'm like, what is going on? He's like, the whole country is subsidizing what's going on in the Gulf.
It's not just the Gulf. Like these issues are happening in California with the fires. They're having the exact same issues. And Texas with all the crazy weather and the freezes and the hurricanes there. So
he also mentioned Hawaii.
Hurricanes and tornadoes and tsunamis in Hawaii.
Stuff went on there. So if you have a name brand insurance company, it doesn't really matter. It's Allstate, Geico, State Farm. It doesn't really matter. These are all big companies with presence everywhere. Just like you would if you're getting killed in one area and not in another, you kind of spread it around. And so that's what's going on. So whether you guys think you're paying for it or not, you are.
But to be fair, these big insurance companies have pulled out of Florida. Like there's no like State Farm in Florida anymore for property insurance.
That's a good point.
There's no, so it's not, they're just straight pulling out of there. So that's actually why, this happened in the 90s as well.
Now she's about to get into the history as to why Florida is moving the way that they're moving. And she's going to talk about Citizens Insurance. What they're talking about with the companies are just going to basically have the rest of America subsidize this increase to insurance costs. I get what he's saying. It makes a lot of sense. But here's the problem. More and more Americans can't buy homes. Right? So you have Americans who can't buy homes. So if you're renting, you're not worried about flood insurance. You're not worried about, any type of hurricane or tornado or earthquake insurance. You don't care. You get your renter's insurance. Everything you got inside your place is cool. If you got real expensive stuff, you get a separate addendum to your insurance policy that's going to cover your expensive stuff in case it gets messed up or whatever. But I mean, you're good. They can only jack up your renter's insurance so much. So they're not going to be able to really recoup those costs. Right. And this, again, when we talk about the Black Swan event, this is what I'm talking about. Like, things are beginning to change, and it's going to, not going to, it has already affected the insurance market to a point where they're not sure how to continue their business model. And it's, to her point, she's like, but a lot of the big companies, they've pulled out of Florida a long time ago. They're like, we're leaving Florida. And that put, again, all the pressure on the current, governor and his administration to figure something out. Way back when, before the governor here announced he was running for president, I was saying he shouldn't do it. Like, don't do that. Right? Like, DeSantis should not try to run for 2024. He should focus on 2028. Right? Forget about it. That way you don't have to deal with Trump. You don't have to worry about this madness. And what he should do is focus on Florida and try to figure out a way to make this insurance thing work. Put his energy in that. I was saying that way back when, right? Over 2 years ago. Right? He runs. The rest is history. Now people look at him like he's an idiot. The Republicans don't like him. They're making fun of him. The picture of him in the white boots. You got folks out there saying he's wearing elevator boots too. Like, when he's walking around in elevator shoes. He doesn't really have any personality. He was going around and talking on these podcasts and dealing with people, and they're like, oh, bro, he's an empty suit. He's done. Politically, he can forget about it. You can forget about 2028. Maybe way down the road someday, maybe, but. And now everyone's looking at Florida like, okay, man, what are you guys going to do about this insurance thing? Right. So she's about to get into the history of, why Florida is doing what they're doing. And we're going to talk about this too at a later date. But, they talk about the insurer of last resort in Florida is a company called Citizens. And, bro, they got problems. And, the governor is trying to he made some decisions that looks like it's going to bite him in the butt. DeSantis just didn't have the right people around him, in my opinion. But let's continue.
Well, I believe it was after Andrew.
It was Andrew.
But anyways, people were moving out of Florida because the insurance was getting too expensive and insurances were pulling out. And when insurers pull out, you have less and less options. So those remaining can jack the prices. So what happened then is they created a state-funded insurance called Citizens Property Insurance. And this was initially for people that couldn't get insurance because your property was right on the water or whatever, just was uninsurable. And that worked okay for a while. But then in 2007, the law was changed and they were allowed to compete with private insurance. So basically said, even though this is a not-for-profit company, they can still compete and anyone can be insured. So, I think it was up to like 80% of people had this Citizens private insurance, right? And they were so much less expensive because they were allowed to be because they weren't working for a profit. Now, this is in 2022 when DeSantis said, listen, the state, because the state funds that like directly, like when you were saying like we fund the insurance companies through different insurance rates throughout the country. Well, what you really, when you have a state funded insurance, just like state funded anything, it's taxpayers, right? So DeSantis wanted everybody off that, and that's good in theory. But the problem is there's only really one insurance company that came in to figure this out, and that was called Slide Insurance.
Yeah,
which is just terrible
which
name.
had a horrible insurance rating.
It has.
And the one thing that they don't mention throughout this video, the guy who's behind Slide Insurance, this is a guy who was with the Enron people. Yeah, Enron. Y'all remember that? Yeah, this dude is running this thing. So keep that in mind. They don't mention it, but I remember I was watching, maybe it was 60 Minutes or some news program where they pointed that out. And bro, what they're doing it's insane. When you talk about these plays, like it's insane what they're doing. again, 1992, they had to come up with a plan because everyone was leaving Florida. The homes were unaffordable because they couldn't get insurance. So you can't get a mortgage. I mean, and back then the housing prices were still low. They came in, they were able to stabilize the market. Like, all right, we're going to come up with this state-backed insurance company that is just going to be a bridge for those people who might lose their insurance. They can come over here to get their coverage, and then we'll move them off the books as soon as they find another insurer. That's how that was supposed to work. Right. But then down the road, they decided, you know what, we're going to go ahead and make this for profit because it was like nonprofit. We're going to let them compete, not make it for profit, but we're going to let them compete. And with the rates. So now you got people because these, they're like, well, that's just the cheapest show in town. Everybody's jumping on there. So now you have this thing. And that's the problem when you try to use government to solve your problem. This is what's going to happen. Right? The government can't compete. You got the taxpayers subsidizing this thing, so everybody's going to jump on that. DeSantis, like, we got to get these people off of this thing. How are we going to do it? And they've come up with ways to get people off of this insurance thing. The problem is they'll get them off of Citizens, and they'll say, well, there's a rule that says you can't up their rates more than 20%, blah blah blah. But I don't think those rates cover, down the road. I think, okay, we'll get them over here. We get them for 19%. All right, now you got to go over here because it's not over 20%. We're compliant. You get over there, you get with your new insurance provider, and then bam, they jack up your rates, maybe, I don't know, a year down the road or something like that. And they state all the reasons why. So now you're stuck. So as you can see, this insurance thing, although this isn't something that DeSantis did, this is something that he inherited. All of the governors post 1992 inherited this thing, and no one fixed it. Kick the can down the road, and now this administration is stuck. And you couple to that how much it costs to buy houses now, and you look at how this is really jacking up the market. So let's continue. Before we do, we got Brother Marcus in the building. What's good, fam? Good to see you.
Really bad rating, and it's a really bad name, but it's Slide Insurance. But essentially,
first of all, they should change their name.
Yeah, it's such a bad name. But and then the CEO was on. They're talking about how you make all this money, and this is how you do it. I mean,
that guy was with Enron. Remember that, guys?
But so all these Floridians are having to get Slide Insurance. As long as Slide isn't one of them, they get to cherry pick which homes that they'll insure. So there's some homes that they won't insure because they're too risky, but most of the homes they'll insure. But DeSantis said, okay, but you can only be 20% more expensive than the public insurance.
Well, can we back up just a second?
Yeah, let me make this one point. So they jacked up the public insurance rates so that they can be 20% more expensive and still make a profit. And that's part of the reason this is all exploding right now on rates.
What I just want to, I think we need to drive a stake in is this is a real estate channel. And so why are we talking about insurance? The reason is because the cost of insurance right now, next it's property taxes, by the way, but the cost of insurance right now is making people decide on where they want to be, where they want to invest, and if they can afford it. That's it. So this is they say history repeats itself. Well, this is exactly, now it's different. The players are different. The acronyms are different. The company names are different. The governor's different. The name of the hurricane's different. But this happened back in the 90s. It's happening, and the insurance companies are getting a little more wiser too. They're actually saying we're going to only insure in areas that have lower losses, which is creating more problems, right? Mm-hmm. And so this happened with health insurance under Obama. When he was trying to do the nationwide health insurance, I know there were something like 20 insurance companies for Arizona that were doing that, and then most of them pulled out for a lot.
Yeah, we're down to one.
Down to one. So whether it's health insurance or whether it's homeowners insurance or whatever, in order for insurance to work well, there has to be a competitive marketplace. Number one, there can't be one, but also there are state departments of insurance in every state. What's interesting is 11 are elected and 39 are appointed. So this is a big deal. And so if you're having a problem, which I'm happy to discuss, I've had a lot of insurance problems. There are avenues. One is obviously contacting the state insurance departments, but two, there's what's called ombudsman that are appointed that helps investigate, et cetera, for insurance. And because what we haven't really discussed and what kind of gets swept under the rug is, let's just go back to Hurricane Ian, which is
So he's gonna get into a story here, and you're gonna have to hear Ken out on this one. He's gonna tell a story of how he had to deal with his insurer with one of his properties after a major storm hit. And listen, guys, like this dude has hundreds of millions of dollars in properties throughout America. He is one of the big players. He knows what he's doing. He's been in the game a long time. And he's going to tell his story and it's going to blow your mind that even someone at his level wasn't prepared for what the insurance companies were trying to do to him. This man is, structuring out the deal. It's not just him. He has a team of very smart people that go out there and they do stuff. And he's about to tell a story of how he had to go to war with his insurance company to get them to do what they're supposed to do. And he'll tell you, he's like, yeah, this is where I screwed up. Didn't look at the paperwork, didn't read the fine print. This is, bro, I'm here to tell you, the game is so cutthroat. It's so brutal. Man, you got to check everybody, man. Any kind of insurance, if you dealing any kind of deal, you dealing, right? You out here, you thinking everyone's on the up and up. This is how it's done. I'm a legit citizen and I'm working in good faith and they're working in good faith and this is how it works. Nah, bro. Nah. This is worse than the deals that we used to do on the streets. And every deal we did on the streets, bro, we was sitting there with our things out. We had the tools out. We was ready for whatever. That's how these people, it was like that cutthroat. That cutthroat is just, you don't need the weapons, right? It's all about who has the money, who has the influence, who's tied into the government, right? Who has enough money to just run you through the system until you run out of money and they beat you that way. I'm talking about like the court system. Bro, it's dirty. It's dirty. How do you defend against that? Man, you need a really sharp team. You need to know the game. You need to know how these other people operate so you can see it coming. And most of all, you just need to make sure y'all paperwork is tight. You got to make sure the contract is tight and it benefits you. Not necessarily even benefit you. It protects you in the way that you assume or in the way that you're paying to be protected. And that's where they get you. They think, oh, you're good because you're paying this, and this. And then when you really need it, oh, well, that wasn't really this and that over there. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? It wasn't a problem when I was making them payments on time, but now it's time for y'all to pay me out and I can't get the bread. So let's continue.
Florida 2 years ago. There's still 50,000 homeowners still battling their insurance claims. And you just go online and look at this. So
That's
not
facts.
only do you have the insurance companies, and of course now we have these back-to-backs, Helene and Milton back to back. But then now you have the adjusters, and the adjusters, I mean, I know everybody's well-meaning, but the adjusters work for the insurance companies. So the frustration is that you pay into these policies and then you're fighting to try to get the policy to kick in and pay for things. And that's actually one of the biggest things going today. And that doesn't get enough attention. And that's what these state departments of insurance are supposed to be for. And so as DeSantis dips his toe into this, it's going to be very, very interesting because people are now, after this, I'm telling you, mark my words, people are starting to decide not to move to Florida because insurance rates are going to be in the $8, $9, $10, $12,000 a year, $1,000 a month just to own something.
And to be clear, we're not talking about, maybe people think that we're talking about some big, nice mansion home. We're not. We're talking about a 2-bed, 3-bath, 2,000 square foot, 1,600 square foot home.
Right.
And so, it gets so expensive to live in these communities. And somebody just asked, how do you cash flow real estate in
Exactly.
Florida
That's exactly
when you
my
have
point.
these insurance costs?
That's
And the
right. You
truth
don't.
is you can't.
You don't.
Yeah.
That's why, several years ago as a company, we were like, okay, where do we want to invest? Well, of course, you saw the population migration. It's Florida, right? So that's one of the states we were looking at. But you know, on the multifamily level, which is the only thing I was looking at, we were looking at $2,000 a unit per year just for insurance, right?
Mhm.
And so when you start to just put that in
$2,000 per unit per year for insurance. And right now, today, the median cost of insurance, correction, the median cost for a apartment, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, is right around $2,000. So he's looking at paying $2,000 in insurance per unit, where he's only making $2,000 off of rent. So if you're looking at where we're we going to do our next deal, we're not going to do it there, right? Like, we're not going to do it there. We look somewhere else. Let's get somewhere away from the water, right? So do you guys see how this is definitely going to be the black swan? This is going to be the thing that's just going to wreck the American economy moving forward. I ain't gonna say wreck it, but it's definitely going to cause some sort of correction.
perspective, that's more than double a lot of other areas, way more than double. So if you have a $300,000 or 300 unit apartment building, that's $300,000 of insurance expense extra. So, you start to look at that's a significant part of the cash flow. And if you go all the way down onto a single family home, and you're collecting, I don't know, $3,000 a month for the home, and your insurance rates are 700 or 800, right?
Well, and it's hard to Florida overall had a 42% increase in insurance from last year. So how do you plan that into your
You
cash
can't.
flow,
You
right? Like if
can't.
you're already paying 600 a month for insurance and then it goes up 42%, now you're paying 900 a month, and and then over time, are your rents even going up that much? And Matthew on YouTube.
And the answer to that is, here in Florida, no, the rents are not going up, they're going down. They're either staying level or going down. They'll try to hit you with a high rent cost if you're just moving in, but they got to stay competitive. So you're looking at, let me rent this 2-bedroom, 2-bath, or let me rent this whatever, and they're like, okay, it's going to be $2,500. Like, well, there's a property around the corner, same square footage, same floor plan, same layout, and they're only asking for $1,950 over there. So where they're going to go, right? So rents are not, at least in Florida, I'm not talking about the rest of the country. Like here in Florida, rents are not shooting up. They're not up. And then like Kendall was saying, oh, you got a single family home that you rent out for like, $3,200. No, that's how much the mortgage is. You're not going to be able to rent that out for $3,200. Why? Because rents are down. It's cheaper to rent in Florida than it is to buy in Florida. And listen, you don't have to worry about the added cost for insurance. You don't have to worry about all the extra maintenance you got to do as a homeowner, blah, blah, blah. You can sit back and wait for exactly what you want before you want to go ahead and go out there and buy you something. And all of the rates were so high, but down here in Florida, the correction has begun. There are people out there, investors trying to get out of these properties. And I mean, there are people selling. I've seen listings that were, 50,000 down, 50,000 discounted off their ass, $100,000 off their ass. There are people who are losing their homes, and now you got the auctions are coming back again. So you're starting to see, again, this is the very early stages, but you're starting to see it. The correction looks like the correction has begun.
YouTube said, well, I want to invest in this part of Florida that has never been hit with a hurricane or hasn't in a long time. And the truth, it doesn't matter. It's spread over the whole state. They're not just
I would say
charging
the
the
country.
areas. Well, yeah, but it's definitely being,
Correct. Yeah.
hit on these states because, like I said, the big insurances are pulling out of Florida. They don't insure the coastal towns any longer. So, it really is just being spread out over the whole state, and you're still going to have really high insurance, even if you don't live somewhere that typically gets hit with hurricanes.
What was it called? Bear what?
going bare.
Going bare. That's going to be a thing.
Well, but what people don't understand about a hurricane too, and you learn this in your property in Texas, and I think it's important. It's not just the hurricane. So when the hurricane comes in and it hits, and then it goes to a category 1 or it's a tropical storm as it goes over Orlando or wherever, there, like I think Florida had 27 tornadoes within that storm. So even, just because you don't see it as a hurricane, you still have wind damage, tornadoes, flooding, rain. So you might not get the full impact of a hurricane on the coast, but the tornadoes a lot of times do just as much damage. And that's kind of what happened to you at your property in Texas.
So this is a horrible thing we went through. I've been through a couple of these. We've had massive hailstorms like in Oklahoma, where 40% of the windows were broken and the siding was golf ball size was had dents in it and even damage, and then the roofs, so we had to do the roofs. So you go to these properties and they're boarded up. They look like that. It's crazy. So what we went through Hurricane Ike in September of 2008, and that's actually when you go through a big hurricane like this, that's when you start to realize, that's when that policy starts to, you start to pull the policy out and you start to look at the things that have gone go well and don't go well. And I'll tell you, like the first thing that happened was my maintenance guy sent me a photo and he said, I swam to the leasing office. Like literally I couldn't believe it. I swam to the leasing office. This is a picture. And what happened was the tornado hit, and then the hurricane hit. And then there's tornadoes that came out of the hurricane and ripped the roofs off. And we lost like 100 and some units there. Well, there's all these things we learned. One was, exclusions can be acts of God and named perils. So you guys need to check your policies, because a lot of times they'll exclude these things. And in our particular case, we learned the difference between a hurricane, wind, and flood, because they're different. Water damage, flood, wind, all of that, right? And so
y'all hear what he's saying? So people go into a situation where they need insurance and they're like, I need insurance and I need it to cover hurricane, tornado, flooding. This is what we want it for. The insurance people are like, yeah, no problem. Here you go. Here's a policy, da, 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 da. If you don't go through there and you look at what the differences are between the hurricane, high winds, tornadoes, flooding, they might be able to exclude shit. Now here you are sitting there like, well, I've been paying for my insurance here and this is supposed to be covered. Nah, that wasn't necessarily what we covered. That's not what was in that policy, right? At a time where you need it most. And this is a dude who is dealing with $1 billion. He's touching billions of dollars running his business. And he had to learn this the hard way.
They're all different, and so all of a sudden you start to see these things. And then the other thing we had was, think about this, building codes change. So we had like a ADA or American Disability Act, or let's say a sprinkler. Maybe now you build something has to be sprinklered for fire protection. Well, if you bought something prior to that, then all of a sudden, in order to come back in, they're going to require those kinds of things. They're going to require sprinklering. So in a couple of our buildings, we were battling with the city saying, we're not going to rebuild this thing until they get it sprinklered. And then we're battling with the insurance company saying, well, sprinklering is, and so you start getting into these little nuances around building codes and whether they're included, and replacement costs and what that means. But the big one was all the power was out, all the electric was out. Obviously the sewer, water, all that stuff, it was horrible. And there was a bunch of people displaced, and of course they couldn't move back. So
think about what he's saying right there. Right now he's talking about people getting displaced and they don't come back. So that's money you don't, not only did the storm destroy the structure, but the people who were living there, you can't force them to pay for a structure when there's no roof, there's no water, there's no power, there's flooding, there's mold. You can't force them to stay there. They're out of the contract, but you still have to pay. Right. Then he's talking about, you get into the nuances of this and that, and you got to figure all this stuff out. Well, you're paying your staff to help you figure it out. You're paying the attorneys to help you figure it out because you got to fight with them being the insurance companies. And then you're going to have to get other attorneys to help you deal with the city and fight about, well, put sprinklers. We got to put sprinklers inside the units now. We have to use different building material. We got to put, maybe got to put an elevator in there, or we got to put, a ramp. Whoa, that's not what I bought. Yeah, but the building codes changed, the rules change. You have to have these things now. Who's gonna pay for it? People are gonna be like, all right, cool. We're gonna go to the insurance company. They're gonna give us the money because we got to build back. Our insurance company ain't nope. So you got to pay all these people to help you figure it out. That's the business side of it, right? And they were, imagine if you didn't have the money to do that, right?
We still had, guess what? The mortgage payment. We still had all the things that cost to run a building. Plus, you have basically 30-40% vacant now with all this damage. And then you have the damage. And so we're all of a sudden, it was dangerous, like you can imagine. So we had to hire crews. The adjusters, they're just like, holy crap, we have to be everywhere at once. And so we didn't have an adjuster out for a while. And but we had to clean the place up to be safe. And so we spent, I want to say, I'm going off of memory, maybe over $150,000-$200,000 just to try to clean up the if, and that's if we can get people. Then we just started getting strong armed by the insurance company. And to make a long story short, I'm happy to do this later. We hired a public adjuster because we weren't getting represented. We didn't understand the nuances inside of the policy. So the policy you get is like this, but the real policy is like a foot thick. It's all legal. What's included, what is not included. And there's a whole process around hiring a public adjuster. But we ended up suing the insurance company, taking them all the way to the Texas Supreme Court, and we settled. And it was $700,000 in legal. So it was a mess. Years.
So peep that, guys. The insurance company fought them all the way to the Supreme Court of the state. Now, he said they had the $200,000 right out of pocket, right up front for cleanup, and then another $700,000 he had to fight legal fees and all that just to get a settlement. Now, he didn't, disclose the settlement, but just to get a settlement, he had to spend $900,000, almost $1 million, just to get the coverage that he was paying for. Right? That's the play. We're gonna, again, later on this week when we do the insurance episode, you guys will see exactly what I'm talking about. Bro, that's the play. And the insurance company was happy to fight him all the way to the state Supreme Court. Why? Because they got to settle and they still didn't pay out the 100% what they should have paid. Right? Think about that. It was cheaper for them to fight you than it is to pay you what you're owed because of the damage. And you're sitting there saying, well, you didn't pay for this, you didn't pay for that. The win was this and it wasn't that. It wasn't quite this, and it wasn't quite that. We're just gonna fight you. And you guys are gonna see when we do this episode that most people, the vast majority of Americans, they don't have the resources to fight.
And it was a mess. But I got a real insurance education during that period of time. And so then you bring all the way back into your other assets. And we've tightened up our policies from there. But that's what a lot of people are dealing with right now.
Yeah, and Stephen had said on YouTube, unaffordable private insurance is a marker signal not to build there. It's a risk signal. And I think, you have to look at that, as an investor, as a homeowner, these insurance prices aren't going to get any cheaper. And also the loss of rents if you can't rent out your property. And I don't know, how great that slide insurance really is because it hasn't been tested. And so
let's not forget about the costs.
Yeah.
5 years ago, construction costs, renovation costs, the costs were a lot less. So now they're dealing with that too. So the insurance companies, if you have replacement costs, they're now sitting on the same as you would be, 30-40% increases for roofs and drywall and all that stuff. So all this inflation that we've all seen, that we're seeing in our renovations and our construction, they're all much higher. I mean, you're going to go to the Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever to buy a refrigerator or a washer and dryer or a dishwasher. It's a lot more. So all that is included in this piece, right? And if you've paid, that's so that, you know, their costs of you know, putting Humpty Dumpty back together again, I guess is probably a good way to say it, is more.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So these are just some things to watch, and we hope that was helpful. And we'll see you guys.
So shout out to brother Ken McElroy, just kind of giving game and letting people know what it is. Don DeMarco to him.
Don DeMarco.
And they're talking from a business standpoint. Like, you know, that's a real estate channel. They're teaching you how to, you know, get your business going and how to purchase real estate and the things you look for. That little bit he was talking about, like the cost of drywall, the increased cost of drywall, the increased cost of, you know, refrigerators and washer and dryers and stoves and microwaves and all that kind of stuff. The increased cost for material to either build or fix your home and or property. Who is sitting on the reserves to do that? This guy, like I said, he touches billions. So he has reserves and he has the wherewithal to fight these people. So he's not a little man. You know, it is what it is. Brother Pablo's in the building. What's good, fam? Hey, bro, that's so scary, right? Like living in a condo 27 miles from San Francisco about 10 years ago, condo owners had a vote on special earthquake insurance assessment. We voted it down. We live right on the Hayward Fault, where y'all know it's coming. Y'all know it's coming. And you know, that assessment, at least you got a chance to vote it down. Again, one of the things that the DeSantis administration did, they forced condo associations to have, you know, a certain percentage of reserves liquid for their properties. They had to do a whole bunch of fixes to properties and stuff like that, because there was a condo that collapsed in Miami because of disrepair or whatever. So they don't want that to happen anywhere else. So they're going out here making these condos do these, you know, fix these issues and stuff like that. So they're having these assessments in Miami. You're getting people getting, you know, each unit on a property is getting hit with, you know, 6-figure assessments. And you ain't voting shit down. It's the law. Up here in you know, Central Florida, Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete, you're seeing people get hit with $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 assessments, and they can't afford them. This was before the storm. Like, so this is the problem what's going on. Like, again, this is the Black Swan event. Again, and you know, like on this platform, you guys know we talk about everything. And this is just one of those things I wanted to throw out there. You guys are going to see here real soon, not just on YouTube, not just on social media, but mainstream media and the elected officials are going to be talking about this. This is going to change the way business is done, right? That Slide Insurance Company, they just came online. Do you think the Slide Insurance is going to be covering these policies that they just picked up? I can answer that for you. No, they're not. They're going to look for every single loophole they can find to not cover these properties. First of all, like, I have no idea what type of reserves they have. I don't know what's legally, required, cash reserves they got to have or whatever. They're not going to have the money available to fix these homes that just got swept away, roofs blown off, all jacked up, flooded. They're just not going to have the money. So what are they going to do? What are these business guys going to do? These opportunists are going to do? They're going to turn to the government and look for a bailout. Florida doesn't have money. The federal government is not going to be looking to do it. If you bail out Florida, you got to bail out Georgia. You got to bail out the Carolinas. You got to bail out Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas. You got to bail out California. If it ain't storms, it's fires or tornadoes. So they don't have the money. Just letting you know right now. Just letting you know right now. This is going to be a problem. And it's going to take, I don't know, maybe 6 to 18 months for this to happen. You know what? They're probably going to get to the bottom of it a lot quicker because everyone's watching and everyone's asking questions. And if the Florida government is going to be forced to send people in to see what's going on. Just think about that. For Hurricane Ian 2 years ago, people still haven't been paid out. It's over 50,000 policies that are being contested. That's what Ken McElroy started out with his podcast. That was the first thing he said. Over 50,000 people, policies being contested for a hurricane that was 2 years ago. We just had 2 hurricanes inside of a month. Bro, I'm telling you, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. It's all about the, I'm not going to say it's all going to come crumbling down, but the correction, right? The correction is about to hit, and it's going to hit hard. And you have a lot of people, a lot of investors are here in Florida buying these single family homes, trying to cash flow and trying to rent them out. What did Ken McElroy just say? You cannot cash flow that. You can't do it. It can't be done. The insurance, with the insurance costs going up the way it's been going up, it cannot be done. So a lot of people are going to lose it, man. They're just going to lose. And there will be money, federal monies for folks, but that money is going to go to corporations and it's going to go to the 1%. Not a lot of that's going to trickle down, to the mom and pop or to the people who are just out here trying to make some moves. I hate to be the one to put it out there like that, but bro, this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt. New hurricane, not necessarily. There is one, Brother Pablo. There is one out there in the Atlantic that most models say is gonna gain some strength, and it's kind of coming up the traditional way. This thing started off the coast of South Africa, and it's kind of been working its way around the Atlantic. If this thing get some energy, if it hits some moisture and hits some warm water, it could definitely creep up to possibly a category 3. That's what they're saying. That's the last thing I heard. They're watching this thing with interest. They're just waiting to see. And there was another system down like in the Gulf of Mexico that they were kind of keeping an eye on, but right now it doesn't seem to be a problem. But again, these things change instantly. On a spot live, I am the Swan in the building. What's good, sis? Good to see you. Good to see you. Much love to you too, sis. I gotta tell you, we're wrapping up anyway. I'm about to appreciate you popping in for a hot second. She's gonna catch team replay. Appreciate you. And I'm wrapping this up, guys. I believe it's here. I think this is the black. I really do. I think this is the Black Swan event is gonna mess up everything. Politically, it's gonna be a problem for elected officials. Certainly gonna be a problem for DeSantis and his administration down here in Florida. He does not have a plan. Will he be able to come up with a plan to figure this out? I hope so, but I don't think so. Businesses are definitely going to do what they got to do to protect themselves, to protect their businesses. I foresee these guys moving. Again, they're going to come out of Florida. It's going to bring it all back to this whole citizens thing. And here's the thing. The reason DeSantis wanted to get people off of the rolls as citizens insurance is because they were running out of money. That's taxpayer funded. So they're running out of money. The state is already obligated to back those people who are being covered by citizens. So it's all kind of problems. All kind of problems. And this is just what it's like. This is life. This is how it works. You make your decision, you got to deal with whatever. And this is what it is. On the flip side, the market might be flipped on its head, which means it's going to be a lot of cheap properties down here. And then for people who have money, they're going to be able to come in and get pretty much what they want. You're going to get some great deals if they choose to. So there's always opportunity. My brother tells me this all the time. This is what our father would say all the time. Is like, hey, man, whenever there's people out there having hard times and losing money, there's also people out there making money. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people to come out here and snatch it all up. Even if a serious correction comes, it doesn't matter. They own it. They own the property. They sit on the property. They get into the property for a fraction of what it costs now, like $200,000. They can afford to fix that, but they can't afford to buy a place for $700,000 and a hurricane comes and blow it down. They can't afford it. They can afford it, but that doesn't make business sense to them. But they could get that same property for 20, for 2000 prices, right? For the year 2000 prices, for the year 2002 prices, they get that home for that price. Yeah, they're not worried about another hurricane. They're not worried about, that insurance because they can afford to, they can just, rebuild. So it's crazy. Laying the Vols in the building was good, sis. just wrapping up here. I just wanted to get in here, let everybody know I'm fine. That storm, like Hurricane Milton, was the real deal, guys. It was the real deal. You know, hurricane seasons are getting more and more potent. We're coming to the end of this particular hurricane season, but there's still one on the way. It looks like we kind of, people are keeping their eyes on it, on the system that's moving this way. But here's the thing: hurricane season will be back next year, right? And we're guaranteed to see at least one Cat 3, Cat 4 storm is going to hit Florida, at least one. So this is certainly a problem, right? This is something that ain't going away no time soon. The free market or the semi-free market should take care of a lot of this, but a lot of people are going to lose. They're going to lose. Some people are going to lose everything, and that is sad. But that's just how it is, y'all. It's crazy out here. Yeah, brother Pablo. It's Florida. Like it was just that explosion in Florida over the past 3 to 5 years. It just wasn't sustainable. I mean, at the end of the day, it just wasn't sustainable, and now people are starting to see it. And as far as people coming down to Florida, yeah, people are going to stop coming down, and a lot of people are going to leave. People have been leaving, but more people are going to leave now. Folks are going to be like, well, I didn't have insurance. I can't afford to rebuild. I'm out. And those properties are going to be there. So it is what it is. Appreciate you, sis. Appreciate you, sis. Like, she knows what's going on, Brother Pitney. He's like, am I back streaming daily at 5? Not quite yet. I'm going to try to do something tomorrow. I'm going to try, but Monday for sure. Monday for sure, we're back to normal schedule. It'll be 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Appreciate that, but there's still things going on that I just can't commit to the 5 o'clock just yet. Like I said, my daughters, they're not even back in school yet. Like, her school got flooded. So she's supposed to be in school Thursday and Friday, but we'll see how that plays out. If she is in school on Thursday and Friday, I will be trying to do the 5 o'clock show. But like I said, definitely Monday we'll be back. Until then, I'm just going to be jumping on whenever, just keeping the word out there. Like, yeah, Mrs. It is what it is. I'm here though, guys. I ain't going nowhere. That was the storm that kept me from talking. I hear you, sis. I hear you. I ain't going nowhere. I'm still here. I'm seeing a lot of stuff out there because my favorite content creators are doing their thing. And I'm definitely going to be talking about politics over the next 19 to 20 days. What we got, like 20, 21 days until the election. So I'm definitely going to be, putting stuff out, talking about that. Definitely going to be talking about what's going on. Medium Man has a short out there, has a clip out there that's really good. Again, sisters are saying how they're going to go out and marry white men. They're done with black men. And he has I'm definitely going to react to what he was saying. And if you guys don't know who Medium Man is, you got to check him out. He backs this stuff up with stats, and he's just throwing it out there. Like, ladies, like, if you're a black woman and you want to go date a white man, get married to a white man, hey, go out there and try it. You know what I mean? Good luck to you. But unfortunately, that might be a pretty big hill to climb for the average black woman. Most black men and black women, tend to marry each other. Don't go by what you're seeing on social media. That's not the norm. Is like all these white dudes out here, wifing up these sisters. That's not the norm. They smashing them, though. But I'm gonna talk about that. I'm definitely gonna talk about that. There's some other things out there I want to talk about. So we're gonna be back on schedule for certain Monday. But hopefully I'll be able to jump on here tomorrow and Friday. I'm sorry. Hopefully I'll be able to jump on here Thursday and Friday and possibly tomorrow. Because what day is it, guys? Today is Tuesday. Yeah, so tomorrow, maybe not, but Thursday, Friday, trying really hard to hit the 5 o'clock. But Monday for sure we'll be back on schedule. So that's it. That's all I got, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I appreciate you, brother. That's good to hear, man. Thank you so much, man. My bad. I hate it when I leave, and I can always use my phone, but I want to use.
You big dummy.
You have a problem.
I want to be able to use these.
This is fucking great, man. Now what the fuck are we supposed to do?
I want to be able to use my
the real
buttons.
pretty
I want to be able to use my buttons. So that's why I don't generally do it when I'm away. I'll turn on the phone in the car when I got something quick to talk about and just upload that. But yeah, I'm glad I'm back as well. But like I said, man, we're still having we lost power today. I forget earlier today, power just kind of went out for about was it 35, 40 minutes, something like that. And then it came back. So there's a lot of work still need to be done here in Florida. That storm was crazy, bro. Crazy. You know what I mean? And yeah, man, I appreciate that, bro. And I'm gonna update my soundboard as well. Oh, and another thing too, real quick before we go, the Downrange podcast. You know, we started that channel over there, but I never got over there. I never got an opportunity to really get over there and do it justice. So what I'm going to do is kind of change that up, and I'm gonna do my own little thing about movies. You guys know I love movies. I love storytelling. I'm gonna go over there and start doing my little version of reviewing stuff. You guys will see what I mean. Get that going. I'll let you know when I have it up and running. Yeah, I got a buddy of mine that I was working with in California, also an air traffic controller, also retired from the game. He and I were doing movies and stuff like that. Well, we had a production team in LA. We had some projects, so we were talking. He liked the idea. So we're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. That's going to be a lot of fun when I'm just, sitting around talking about movies and stuff like that. And speaking of movies, guys, on Netflix, man, Love, Sex, and Robots. I don't know if you guys love animation. I don't know if you have seen this or heard of this. It's been out for years. I think they're up to season 2 or 3 now. If you want to see cutting edge animation and some really good stories, man, check it out. Love, Sex, and Robots is on Netflix. My favorite is Lucky Number 13. It's military style one. They also have another one where they have some Russians in World War II fighting these demons. That's a really good one. I need to get the name of that one. So I'm going to start doing that on the other channel. But just so you know, it's like, am I taking call-ins? Not right now, but you know what, bro? I will drop the link for you. I will absolutely drop the link for you. Hold on, give me a second. Let me do this. Invite link. Hit that button. And come over here and paste it. Bam, there you go. Oh, Joe, pop up here, man. Let's talk. Let's talk. Hey, y'all. There it is. There's the street. Because I was just about to wrap it up, but Ojo, he has something he wants to say. So let's get the brother up here and let's have that conversation. But and like I said, I will definitely pop I will definitely put the link to Brother Ken's video in the description. Was in the building. Good, fam. How you doing?
Hello, sir. How are you today? Hey, I'll be really fast. It sounded to me like you were just winding down as I got here, eh?
I was, man, but take your time. I mean, I just wanted to kind of get back into the swing of things, like after the storm. It's kind of rough down here, so it was good to kind of get back into the swing. But take your time, no rush.
Well, next time you have a show on the inflation and the increased costs of cost of living, let me know, and I'd love to jump on and comment. But what I'd like to ask you is, this hurricane scenario, like where I live, we have absolutely no exposure to that weather phenomenon. So is this something that's happening to you guys more regularly, or is it getting more severe, or in your experience about the same?
It's more severe. A lot of people are like, global warming and this and that. Listen, I can tell you this. The storms here in Florida are getting more severe. The storms in the Midwest with because I'm originally from Ohio, and we're in Tornado Alley. So I'm no stranger to tornadoes. Those storms seem to be a little more severe and a little more frequent. But here in Florida, there's a season. Like there's a hurricane season. We're coming to the end of hurricane season. And people who live here are saying the same thing. Like we've never seen this. The storm, like Milton coming from the Gulf and being as powerful as it was, hasn't happened in over 100 years. So that was one of the main catalysts to get people to go. And a lot of people did hit the roads, bro. It took us almost 15 hours to get from Florida to Georgia. But where we went is normally an 8-hour drive from door to door. And it was like almost twice that because so many people were getting out because no one has seen this before. The storm coming from the Gulf, getting up to a Cat 5 at one point, which is the strongest hurricane that you can possibly be. And when it hit as a Category 3, but it was almost a Category 4 storm. And it did so much damage. So no, it's getting more intense, bro.
So you have a place you kind of got set up for the season that you can kind of get to if you have to?
Oh yeah, family. Like I'll just like if the storm is bad enough, we'll head north. You know, we got family in Georgia, we have family in Ohio. You know, we'll just leave. We got like spots in Miami. And funny enough, this storm was far enough north where it really didn't affect Miami that much. Normally, when it comes from the Atlantic, you know, it'll hit it. Miami is, you know, we got to really worry about what's going on in Miami. But this time it was different. So to answer your question, like, yeah, man, the storms are more intense and they're different now than they have been historically.
So are you pretty much out on the other side of it now, or did they anticipate anything more coming at you?
There's one storm that they're looking at in the Atlantic right now that it could be a problem. And there's a storm in the Gulf, actually in the same place that Milton and Helena was formed. But they're looking at that one, and it's something to do with there's a high pressure system that's keeping, I think it's some sort of front, maybe it's a cold front or a high pressure system that's keeping that storm at bay. So even if it forms into like a tropical depression, it's going to be pushed inland. So it'll hit like Mexico and Central America, and then, you know, it won't really do any damage. But who knows, if that front moves north of its current position, it might become a problem. But they're not really too concerned about the formation in the Gulf right now, but they are watching this thing in the Atlantic. And right now, most of the models predicted it could be as powerful as a Category 3, and it could actually head towards the U.S.
You know, one of the things, like where I come from, we're surrounded by big mountains, 5,000 foot high mountains, right? So to look at flat country, to me, it's almost disconcerting. And I was in Pensacola, Florida one time, and it looked like some of those homes it was an illusion, but it looked like some of them were built right on the ocean on a sandbar. Like it looked like they're hardly even, like you could almost throw a rock into the ocean. So you'd think any kind of a wave would come and cause major problems. Did the damage in the end from both the storms, was the damage what they thought it would be, or did it turn out to be less? Or
well, Helene did more damage than most people anticipated that it would do. That storm was like 90 miles offshore, tracking north. So it kind of it passed Florida, Central Florida, and just tracked to the north, and then it made landfall like in northern Florida, and then it went and caused all the damage it caused like in the Carolinas, and it did a lot of damage in Georgia. When we were driving back, we could see like the wind damage in Georgia, like southern Georgia, like trees were like pulled out of the ground, snapped. It was pretty crazy. So when these storms occur, so that storm did more damage than we thought because we were only getting the outer bands, but it caused a lot of flooding. There was a little bit of wind damage, but the flooding was the big thing. And then 2 weeks later, it was followed up with Milton, which came and hit, like directly hit Tampa, Sarasota. And they were anticipating more damage. It didn't get as bad as they thought. They were anticipating as high as 12 to 14 foot storm surges, like a wall of water, like 14 feet high. That didn't happen. But the flooding was severe. We're still dealing with flooding here. The wind damage, like the trees, power lines coming down, and then the tornadoes. No one anticipated the type of tornadoes that works with Milton. It was like the highest number of tornadoes in Florida, in the state of Florida. It was a lot of damage that wasn't anticipated at all. So I think the first fatalities were due to these tornadoes, which hit all over South and Central Florida.
Man, hey, speaking of unstoppable forces of nature, look who just joined your panel here.
I see, bro. I see.
I don't know about that. What up, old Joe? What up, DL?
What's good, fam?
Just saw you guys up here and thought I'd stop by, have a little chit chat.
Well, I was interested, one of the things that was interesting to me when I was in Florida, this is 20 years ago, is that how the laws change from county to county. So DL, you can maybe straighten me out here, but there were places where there were dry counties where you could not buy alcohol and you had to go over across the county line to buy booze unless you wanted to go to a bootlegger or something. Does that make sense, or am I totally off base there?
Now you would get that. I grew up like that. There was even some states where you couldn't buy alcohol on Sundays. There were dry counties in some states. I did see that, growing up. I don't know to what extent that's the case now. I would imagine that there's still some places that does that. My brother Yosef is in the building. What's good, fam? I saw you, man. We were in Cummings. Bro. We were there for less than 48 hours. I definitely would have hit you up. The reason I didn't hit you up is because, man, it was a mess, bro. We had my little one with me. It was, we had animals with us, bro. It was a mess. But that's the only reason, bro. You got to forgive me for that. But I was in Cummings, Georgia. So yeah, brother. Oh, Joe, that's the thing. There was places where, like, you couldn't get alcohol on Sundays. You couldn't get alcohol in certain counties. But then you just had to know, which door to go knock on, and you get yourself a little something. That was definitely a thing.
I believe that.
Go. Yeah. Well, both of you guys were in the military. Eh? Do they deploy the military out for these disasters? Like, do they have them out sandbagging or delivering water?
I mean, National Guard, right? I mean, I don't know specifically right now if they are employing them, but they have many times in the U.S., right, during natural disaster.
Yeah, I won a couple of awards when I was at Bragg. Hurricane Andrews hit Florida, and it really did a number on Florida. The National Guard was there. A lot of federal entities were there, and they deployed us. I would say maybe 3 to 5 days after the storm cleared. We thought we were going to have to jump in. They flew us in on a Chinook. It was my TAC team. It was 3 of us initially, and then our 4th member came down and joined us like 18 hours later. But that's the only time that I was ever deployed. As a federal military guy. But when I was in the Guard, yeah, we went all the time. The Guard would always go out first. That's pretty much their mission. And I was in an engineering company, so we had we had all of the dump trucks and stuff like this. I was in the Ohio Guard. There was some flooding in Ohio, and we had to go and go fix that. But depends on how bad it is. Once the government, once the president authorizes that state to be declared like a state of emergency or whatever, they can utilize, soldiers and Marines and sailors, whoever, Coast Guard, to go down there. You get the option, whatever you need. When the president says you get whatever you need, they're not joking. And if you say that we need somebody to come down here and help us secure this place, they might call up these devil dogs. Because when we went down to Hurricane Andrews, the Marines were already there. We were in Homestead. The Marines were already there. They had set up a tent city. It was a bunch of people, bro. I thought I was in Guatemala. It was the craziest thing. So have you ever had an experience like that, Base?
Well, it's funny, as you were talking about this, I was thinking my first deployment was to Afghanistan. I mean, that's where we were headed on a MEU, so Marine Expeditionary Unit, so Navy ship with Marines. Anyways, we ended up doing a complete divergence. We went to Pakistan due to a tsunami, if I'm correct. So this be like 2010. And so our combat mission, I mean, what it was to be, turned into a humanitarian one based on tsunami in Pakistan. I mean, at least that's what we were told.
Yeah. Well, we never know. Like when you, as a federal soldier, like as a I hate to say federal soldier, but I hate to say real soldier. But full time, yeah. But as a full time, soldier or Marine or sailor,
yeah.
When orders come down, they come down. We don't question them. We just go. And you kind of know. Well, if we take weapons, like if we draw weapons, like okay, it's probably gonna be some shooting shit. But if we just go, like we just take our gear and no weapons, it's like it's probably gonna be humanitarian. So you just never know.
Here's the thing. Now that you said that, so my particular platoon, right? I was in Mortar's weapons company. So we were going to get off the ship, like our whole platoon, And what we were told is that we couldn't have our rifles. They would have to be in Connex boxes, dropped off, something like that. And that Marines were actively taking heat. This is what we were told.
Oh,
and
well,
so
that's just-
when you just said and I agree with you, I mean, in a term, is the orders come down, you don't question it. Well, I'll tell you, everyone in my platoon was just like, you know, fuck that, we're not doing that. You know what I mean? That was the sentiments. But at the end of the day, you're right. We have to do whatever we're told. Even if they were like, yo, you got to walk off the side of the ship. What are you going to do? They will stick you in the brig, right? I'm not saying that you should, you know, jump into the ocean. I'm just saying dudes are used to doing what we're told in those situations. Otherwise, you're going to pay consequences.
Like real consequences. And yeah, I mean, that when we came down, we were in Miami, and then we drove down to Homestead. When we got to Homestead, we had it was like U.S. Marshals, I think it was ATF, and some other entity came up to us. We had our Humvee, we were setting up, we were actually running some ATC mission, and they came up to us and it's like, okay, what weapons did you guys bring? Like we didn't bring any weapons. Like we didn't have our M16s, we didn't have any 9mm, we didn't have nothing. Because they're like, they wanted to give us ammo, and they wanted, because it was bad. Like it was really bad those first couple of days in Homestead before we got there, right when the Marines got there. And that's the reason they wanted us down. Yeah, that's why they wanted us down there. Like they didn't give us any weapons. So you know, like if it's, I have family down there, I'm like, look, if it's that bad, I can get some weapons. I can make some calls and get some people down here. I get some weapons. But they're like, no, you'll be all right. You know, you're here with the Marines. Devil Dogs did have their weapons with them. So we were secure. But yeah, that was the only real humanitarian. Like I got the Humanitarian Service Award for that. And I also got
too, yeah.
the hand on it. Yeah.
You know, so that you can feel like, well, it's not a car. And, you know, that's what a lot of dudes, especially as a boot, right, first deployment, that was my first one. They're like, oh, we're not getting a car. But here's the reality, not to open up this whole box, I'll make it short. But I'm glad that, you know, I didn't do what we were supposed to do. I mean, I did what I was supposed to do. I didn't have any issue in the Marine Corps other than it sucks. Right. I mean, you're going to, you know, the experience can be painful, right? I should have said that. But when it comes to the combat, I'm glad that didn't happen. You know what I mean? Because on one end, we were doing the right thing, the official narrative and the accounts of some people, right? There's military who are veterans, people that were there that are under the belief that they did all the right things for the right reasons overall within the, you know, various missions, Iraq, Afghanistan. But I tend to believe that we were more so doing the wrong thing. When I say we, I mean the government, you know, the powers that be, military industrial complex, right? That's how I view it. You know, what's the truth? Maybe somewhere in the middle. Maybe we were kind of on some foul shit, worried about batteries and black water and, you know, getting gold poppy oil, power control. And maybe in some terms we did help Pakistani people, Iraqi people, whatever the case. I don't know, but I don't trust our government. Therefore, I don't trust the direction of the military. But nonetheless, you know, we did what we were supposed to do.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. Like there's trustworthy people in the government, but the government is like a weapon, and it's who's wielding that weapon that could be the problem. Because you're absolutely right. Like, should they have armed us to go down to Homestead, Florida? If it was dangerous, yeah. But that puts, you know, you don't want to have a story where guys from the 82nd Airborne Division lights up a bunch of gangbangers, you know what I mean, in Hialeah or in Homestead or whatever. That's bad publicity. That's not what those soldiers are supposed to be doing. But when they send us to some faraway land, well, it kind of loosens up, doesn't it? Brother Paulo was asking about what was going on in Lebanon, you know, back in 84 when the Marines got bombed there. I'm not a Marine. I don't understand how they move, but from what I do understand, those Marines who are doing embassy duties, they have their weapons, they have their rounds. Like Marines are ready to fight. What do you think about that? He's talking about in Lebanon, when they were bombed in '84. It's like he think that the Marines there were not allowed to have bullets in their guns. I don't think that's correct.
Well, that could have been part of, I don't know, but it could have been part of the
Rules of engagement.
SOP, right?
SOP,
yeah,
standard operation
SOPs.
procedures. Yeah,
right. It could have been that for a portion, maybe the whole. I don't know. But what you're saying in a term, Pablo, I mean, it could be correct. At times, that is what it is. I found out. I mean, we were finding out. Yeah.
I mean, I've been shot at in America way more than I've been shot at in faraway lands, but I've been shot at in faraway lands, so the Army doesn't want to just give you 210 rounds and send you into the streets of whatever. Like they didn't want to send me through Riyadh, with just 18-year-old with this M16. The shit could go bad. So they have to weigh it out. Now, when we were downrange, we were in the field. Yeah, we had all our weapons. We had all our ammo. We had, we had grenades. We had claymores. We had everything we needed. The 60, everything worked.
The 60.
But once they bring us,
I like the 60. Yeah.
Old guy, hey man, I'm old school, bro. But when they brought us back, they took all that shit away. Like, nah, you can't have any of this.
Yeah. And on that topic, that idea, I remember getting out of the Marine Corps and coming back after 2 deployments, 4 years up. And I remember some family, some very dumb family, but very well educated, went to a very high level university and graduated, big career degree, whatever, making the argument that I should not be able to own a firearm in the U.S. And I said, so you had no problem with me deploying multiple, you had no problem with that shit, right? What's happening in other countries and my ability to, follow within the law or SOPs, whatever it be. But here in America, you don't trust me here with like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then it kind of sidetracked. I don't remember the whole conversation, but maybe into like PTSD and, look, everyone has some mental shit, not to get too deep into that, but I'm just saying,
right.
Are you handling yourself? Are you fit? We could say this to people who are undiagnosed, which many times those probably are the people that do some bullshit.
I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. I would say the opposite should be true. I would say that you should be required to have a rifle because you are a former Marine. I think all former military should be required to have a weapon, kind of, harkening back to the Minuteman type shit. Like, you are the trained individual. I want you to have that rifle. I'm just because old Joe here, I wanted to bring him into the conversation. What's your take on that, bro?
There are countries that I don't know whether they still do, but they did require their citizens to own rifles. I believe Switzerland was one of them. Somebody could check on that, but
it sounds right.
Yeah, I don't think the gun ownership itself is the issue. And I think Base makes a really good point, and I've heard that from servicemen, in that they'll be sent over to these places and asked to do all this stuff, and then when they get back, it seems like the rules change, and I don't understand. So myself, I think it's more the gun itself. It may be a tool that does damage, but it requires somebody behind it to inflict that damage. It's a really muddy area, isn't it? Like, especially down in the States with, some of the stuff that's happening lately. I'm not sure restricting the firearms is the answer in the end. That's my answer.
I think I like that answer.
And a shout out to G Complex. Yeah, there are many like it, but this one is mine. And
this is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine.
Shout out to G Complex in the building, bro. I gotta show him some love. That's one of my brothers out there, man. I really believe in the Second Amendment here in America. People, when I had this conversation with folks, and you got, to your point, Base, like, you got no problem with the United States government teaching me, how to go out here and handle America's business. But when I come home, you don't want me to have a weapon. That's just asinine. And for those people, like, well, what if we can get rid of all the guns? It's just not possible, man. Like, it's just like, what if we can get rid of cancer? Like, you can't get rid of the weapons in this country. There are more weapons in this country than there are people, but you can help people who deal with their mental issues. We all have these things we got to deal with. We can help people deal with that. And of course, I agree with, like, you know, red flag laws and stuff like that. Like, bro, if you are crazy, if something did happen to you, yeah, I'm not too keen on just giving you a weapon. Like, I'm okay with you jumping through a couple extra hoops, me included. Like, here in Florida, because I was in the United States Army, I have a DD 214. I didn't have to go through the firearms training course to get my concealed carry. And this is before they changed the rules. Now, base, you can come down here. You don't even need paperwork, bro. I can give you my Glock and you can walk around with it. It's legal down here.
Yeah, when I was in Florida recently, somebody tried to sell me a shotgun or something. I don't know.
Well, shotguns have always been like, they could do that. Yeah.
Maybe it was an AR. I can't remember. It was maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. Anyways, I was like, damn, like the law is really loose down here.
Extremely lax. Now, my thing is, I think people should have to qualify. A lot of people get mad at me. I'm like, bro, if you're walking around with, you know, a 50 caliber, you know, machine gun, you should have to qualify with that damn thing, bro. Like, I don't, if you want to have it, that's fine. You need the paperwork. But like, I should have to qualify once a year with my sidearm. I should have to qualify once a year with my shotgun, with my rifle. I don't have a problem with that, but a lot of people don't like that. They're like, we don't like those restrictions, and I understand why. Yeah, I think. Oh, Joe, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, what I was going to say is, here where I come from in Canada, the firearms laws are quite a bit different. We did have a registry at one point where all guns were registered. Now, if you own a handgun, a short gun that fits certain parameters, it has to be registered. But I'll throw something out there, and I'm speaking off the cuff. I read this somewhere once, and I don't know if it's 100% true. It's possible that in our country, when somebody's arrested, a serious criminal is arrested with a firearm, the firearms charge is one of the first things that's plea bargained away. And my concern is that the serious criminals are getting access to guns and not being punished for it. And the average guy who tries to be a law-abiding hunter probably winds up wearing more of the regulations and being more inconvenienced by it. And I'm not sure in the end if stopping the guy that wants to go out and, you know, provide a moose for his family or a deer is the answer. You know what I'm saying?
Go ahead, Base.
Yeah, you know, old Joe, one of my pet peeves is when people, like on panels or anywhere, talk about somebody they've never met before, they don't know, never interacted, and they talk about what the individual thinks, what they're thinking. They say, oh, so-and-so wants this, they want that. How the fuck do you know what they want? You don't even know this person, but you know what they want. Oh, well, they said it. Well, in the case of what you're talking about, I don't need to know what the government is thinking, right? And obviously it's a collective of individuals that we could run up to the top and say, well, president in charge, Congress, you know, whatever. But the point is, if you want to know what the government is thinking, look at their actions. What you just described is reality. Just like what we were describing with the, you know, you're good to have guns in Iraq and Afghanistan and Zimbabwe and wherever the fuck, but no, not in the U.S. Whoa, even though the Second Amendment, even though that shit, right? So when you look at the big picture, it's very clear that the U.S. government doesn't want people, average persons, like you're saying, regular guys, whatever, to own firearms to be able to compete with those other individuals that you're talking about, organized crime, which there's a lot of evidence the government, has helped bring into the country, while simultaneously saying, oh, average citizens, we're going to make it more difficult for you, but it will be in the guise of your safety, your protection.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Bro. For them to sit there and say, well, I'm going to protect you. Like, bro, I don't need you to protect me. You know what I mean? I know how to fight. You know, I know how to move under fire. I know, you know what I mean? I've worked with teams. I don't need you to, even before the military, like, bro, I don't need you to protect me. But we have so many sheeple in our society down here. I'm like, the right to bear arms is a precious right. You're not going to get that anywhere else, you know, on planet Earth, right? It's so hard. The one of the reasons why people don't, any military or any large organization will never really try to invade America is because, like, man, they got too many guns over there. Man, all these people are armed. I think that Ojo is right. I think is wrong for them to make it harder for law-abiding citizens, the quote-unquote good guys, to get their hands on firearms just so they can protect themselves and go hunting and do what they want to do responsibly. But to Base's point, if they're trying to keep the good guys from getting guns, right, that shows you what how they're moving and where they're going with it. My thing is, I tell this to people all the time. I'm in my 50s. I did not have my first registered firearm until I was 50, age 50. Right. And here's the thing. I've always had guns. Let that marinate for a while. What does that tell you? Right. So, and it's, I just don't understand why the government is so set on keeping people from at least the opportunity to protect themselves. Like, here, I'm not saying go get a gun, but if you want one in America, you can go get one. Now, even Kamala Harris is running around talking about she got a Glock. But that's what's one of the main ones who talking about that. I think we should ban this.
She shouldn't
ban
have
that.
one. Yeah, no, she shouldn't. She's one of the ones that be like, nah, you know what? Red flag. No Glock for you.
No,
well, that's what I'm saying, DL, is we know the answer. You're saying it, but you're saying it as if you don't want to say it. Like, nah, it can't be this. No, it's fucking that.
Yeah. What was that? What was that, brother Ojo?
Well, what I was saying is part of the political game is sometimes doing what looks good and not what does good. So you might spend your time going after an easier target if you wanted to pander to your audience and say, look at what we're doing on crime. There's a risk to going after the hardened criminals or the gangs, but there's really very little risk to walk up to my door and knock on my door and say, hey, look, this type of firearm that you have, we've made this illegal, which is happening in Canada, by the way. There's a whole raft of them that they have decided are illegal. So basically what they do, in fact, all handguns. So what they'll do is they'll say you can't transfer them and you can't gift them on or will them to your kids. So once you currently own them, but once you pass away, they're to be destroyed. That's the scenario here. And that's a lot easier to do than go into the streets and where all the gang problems are and take these guns from these people that are actually using them for bad purposes. So it's nefarious. It's a dirty political tactic in some cases.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one way to keep you subservient. I mean, you can't protect yourself. Now you are forced to depend on those people to take care of you.
Yes.
And I think that's absolute bullshit. Again, people keep saying like, this politician gonna take your guns, that politician gonna take your guns, whatever. Bro, no one's ever gonna be able to get rid of all the guns in America. It's never gonna happen. And if we get to a point where someone actually tries to go do that, that's when you'll have your revolution. I know everybody's keep talking about a civil war, this whatever. What law enforcement official wants to go knocking on doors looking for rifles, wants to go knocking on doors looking for AKs and shotguns and Glocks? No one wants to do that, bro. Like, no one wants to do that.
Let me give you a little parallel of what happened here on a different issue, because I think this is kind of what you guys might see in the United States. We had, now I want to talk my way around it as usual, which once again is ridiculous, but the issue that happened in 2020 with the mandates and all of the rest of the scenarios, here in Canada it was quite stringent, and you actually had law enforcement officers quitting, army officers quitting and publicly denouncing their own force. So it's my bet that if something like that, like you talk about, DL, if there was an order go out to either the army or the police force to say, okay, go get everybody's guns, I would be willing to bet you'd have a whole pile of them saying, forget it.
Yeah. No one's going to do that. That was the point I was trying to make. No one's going to go try to take those guns. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And I think you hit the nail on the head, because it's all about pandering. There are so many people out there who's like, well, if we just get rid of all the guns, we're not going to have any more of these shootings. I disagree. It just makes them more expensive, right? It makes them more valuable. But if someone wants to go get a weapon and do whatever, now having said that, am I saying that there should be no restrictions? No, I'm not saying that. No, there should be restrictions. Like I said earlier, I think people should have to qualify. I think everyone should have to go through the safety classes. Even someone like Based and myself, Base has spent more time on the range than me. He's a Marine. Marines spend way more time on the range than the average soldier will do. Now, I spend more time
maybe
on
not. It depends. We've talked about it times like, man, it's been a year. I remember having that, but I know what you're saying. Maybe it depends. I don't know.
Just
It might
your
be less
time
than
in
you
basic,
think.
like basic, and then even when you were in like weapon school or whatever. Because I mean, I'm pretty sure y'all had to stay up on, you know, your small arms, not just dropping the mortars, but y'all had to also stay up on your thing. So I hear what you're saying, but I think in general, I would say Marines spend more time on the range than all of the other services. I think Army comes in a close second. Now, when you start talking about Rangers, you start talking about, you know, Green Berets, I'm just talking about going through basic training and spending that part right there. I think that y'all spend way more time on the range than the average soldier.
And I agree. I mean, and obviously we only have our own reference points. I guess I was just saying you might be surprised. I was surprised that it wasn't more, you know, being in the infantry, Marine Corps. But I did want to make a point, both to the ones that we were just making earlier and the new ones that you're talking about, is maybe some food for thought to be wary of creating a false dichotomy. And here's the deal is what you and old Joe and I were talking about in regards to, well, what are the reasons it's like this? Is it pure evil? Is it laziness, complacency, right? There's all these, you know, is it and the answer is yes, it's all of that shit. Now, which is it more of? Is the government more evil or more corrupt, sort of the same, or more just lazy? You know what I mean? But moving to the new point about, well, if the government wanted to take our guns, they couldn't do it. Here's the thing. That's also maybe the way framed a false dichotomy in terms of they don't need to come into every house or knock on every door to get all the guns. Or I shouldn't say that, to make them illegal. What they could do, and what we're lending towards, the trajectory is pointing at, is there'll be a time where you can't afford to own a gun. Like right now, if the median mean income is $45,000-$50,000 a year, whatever it is, maybe you'll have to make $1 million a year in order to own a gun. And in that way, they'll say, well, it's not illegal, but if you get caught outside and you don't have this special insurance, you didn't pay these fees, which to DL's points about training, we can see that shit has nothing to do with, because there should be more training. I totally agree. And instead, there's less training and more sort of bureaucratic bullshit lending towards this conversation. Well, why is it this way? And I think it's a little bit of everything that we mentioned, but more so the dependency. They want individuals to feel dependent for their guise, really, of security based on the government, because that makes you less of a man. That makes you less responsible, less freely acting on your own accord to provide and protect for yourself.
Just to echo what you've said, Base, my my ex-father-in-law, he's passed away and he'd be about 90. He grew up in Austria, and when he was a young man there, he said that hunting was quite common. But as he got older and older, he said it's not that it became illegal, it just became far more expensive. So you had to belong to a club. First it became that you had to belong to a club. Then next it became that you had to have not only belonged to a club like a golf course, similarly you had to pay a yearly fee. Then you had to pay to participate in a draw. Then it became that the license to hunt the animal, and you had to find a specific animal that you were allotted. That was a fortune. And eventually he said it was in a period of 20, 30 years where very few people could afford to either have firearms or hunt with them. And so it kind of mirrors what you've said there.
Yeah.
That's how they do it. And even still in America, like it's too many people in America willing to break the law, especially when it comes to weapons. But like you said, if you want to get serious about it, it will take some generations, but you could do that. You know, you could absolutely do that. Like kind of like what old Joe was saying. When I die, I can't will my weapons to my daughter. Right. So if that's the case, she has to get rid of all my weapons. I can, it's like, yeah, it'll take a few generations, but yeah, now you've kind of, at least you've gotten the weapons that you know about. But America has so many weapons that are off the books. This is another reason why, like, you'll never be able to get rid of all the weapons in America.
Well, this is and it may be stereotypical of me because I'm not an American, but I just have this vision of these moonshiners, bootleggers down in the South, and somebody telling them that they have to have a license to have their gun. I don't think that would go that far. I don't know how well it would go over with those type of people.
It won't go well at all. You ain't gonna be moonshiners. We're dudes in the hood. You telling dudes in the hood like, you gotta have a license for this and that. Like, bro, we're out here breaking a law. You think we care about that law? We over here breaking these laws. So it's just, there are people out here, like I said, there are people who they want the illusion of safety, and they're willing to give away all the freedoms that we enjoy to get it. And it's just absolute bullshit, bro. In my opinion, you're never gonna be safe. Life ain't safe.
Hey, DL,
Right.
could I ask one last question related, and then I'm going to drop down here.
Yes, sir.
I don't know how long ago it was. See, we get the news up here in Canada. Sometimes it's exaggerated. The negativity is exaggerated. So there was a storm, and I don't know whether it was New Orleans. There was some sort of a Superdome or something down there that people were holed up in. And
talking about Hurricane Katrina.
Was that it? And what we heard was that basically society within that Superdome, was it Superdome? Is that what it was?
Yes, it was a Superdome.
Descended into chaos where there were actual, unalivings and stuff. Now, is that true? Did that really happen, or
yes, that happened. Wow. Now, how bad was it? I don't know. I've never spoke to anyone who was in the Superdome. I have talked to plenty of people who rode out that storm. Katrina was a horrible hurricane. It devastated New Orleans. I mean, I don't think they've ever really recovered from it. But the people who were in the Superdome were the people who couldn't afford to flee. They couldn't afford to evacuate. It was the poorest of the poor. And they were all told to go there by the government, by the people. They're like, these are the people going to take care of me, to Base's point. They were all told to go to the Superdome. When they got there, there was no provisioning. There was no security. There was nothing. The doors were open. At one point, the lights didn't work. And I heard some of the most horrific stories of what was going on in there and what people were doing in there. It was like, Escape from New York or Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome. Now, I can't verify these stories, but you can look it up. There are a lot of stories. There are a lot of reporters talking about folks. And I did hear one story about guys that I knew that lived down there. They said that there were individuals who were claiming to be federal agents or whatever. They wouldn't say what agency, going door to door, getting people weapons. They were rolling up on people, taking their weapons. Now, I can't verify that story, but people were telling me like, yeah, man, they came and they took our weapons and they left. They didn't send help to come get us. They just took our weapons and left.
It's
true.
Really? Do you know how I know it's true?
How?
Because it's fucking people. Of course, there was some group doing that. I mean, yeah. Even if it didn't happen on that occasion, it's happened. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, brother Ojo, like, yeah, man, the stories you're hearing, I think the stories that you're hearing pales in comparison to some of the stories that I could tell you. I can't tell any of it on YouTube. That's how bad it is. Like, when I say nightmarish, what was going on inside that, and there's video footage from correspondents, news correspondents, stuff like that. You can see the people wrapped up and just there on the ground. Like they were done. Like they were wrapped up on the ground. There was no one coming to pick them up to collect the bodies. And there were lots of bodies. There was no AC. The storm went through. It was barely any power, no water, no food. That's when all the riots and all that stuff, all the looting began. It was horrific, brother. So yeah, I'm pretty sure whatever stories you heard were true, but I don't think that they were as bad as things really were on the ground.
Oh, crazy. Hey, thanks a lot for having me up, DL. And good seeing you guys again.
Hey, always a pleasure, brother. Thank you.
Joe.
See you later.
Peace.
Hey,
So, Base, man, I saw the Papa Loon episode. I was trying to get my shit together to jump on there, and you were done. I'm like, what the hell?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, you must have got on the end. I think it was 3 hours. That was the longest stream I've done. I don't know, maybe ever.
I caught it towards the end because I'm like, what's this? And then it was like, I went to do something, came back, and it was over.
Well, it wasn't even a great episode. It was one of the first, and I've seen a few. I want to do the next new one, but some of the newer ones I saw, they were so good in terms of shit to pick apart. You know, these are normal people. It's normal. It's average men and average women. And therefore, being average, you know, mostly around the average mark, they fucking suck. The women suck. The men suck. And I'm not saying this in a genetics way. I'm not saying it in a, you know, things outside their control. I'm talking about the things inside their control, right? We have obese women and, you know, men to differing degree, just things that you see that catch your eye and you're like, damn, these people fucked up. The things coming out of their mouth, like dudes getting rejected and then coping, like trying to win her back after the rejection. Oh, I didn't mean to answer like that. I didn't mean to do it. You know what I mean? It was so good. I mean, it's so bad, but it's so good. But I thought all the different sort of, you know, teaching moments within it, you know, body language, all sorts of shit. Because there's a lot of people like, oh, the show is fake. And to a degree, everything is contrived, right, online, right? There's some kind of, you know, we kind of want you to be like this. But there's no way these people were remembering lines and were lining up with the reaction. I mean, no, it's real enough to review. So.
It shows you how sad the state of dating is in America, where you got people lining up to do a show like that. That's such a degrading thing to do. I can see, right? I can see if it's like, this is straight comedy. We're bringing you in because you're a comedian. We you know, you come in like that, like this is like WWE wrestling. Like we know it, like you said, like this is 100% fake. We're using the same people every week. We're just doing this for fun. But these folks are really coming in there doing this thing, saying this shit. And it just, bro, I just can't. Like I look at this shit and I just like, oh my God, bro. It's like being on whatever podcast. If I'm a female, like if a female tells me, well, you know, I was on whatever podcast last week, I'm getting up. I don't even want to talk to her no more. Like, oh, word? Okay, well, okay, bye. You know, I'm done talking to you.
You know,
how is that a flex?
Maybe you and I don't know, I'm just thinking maybe it'd be cool to do like a co-show, you and I, and go over one of them. And obviously only one of us be able to pause it every here and there. But just to give our takes, because I think they'd be pretty similar. I think if we were separately doing it, they might be more different, right? I get it, the red pill and I'm in the no pill. But I'm saying I think if we did it, we'd end up coming to some very similar conclusions on the people, what's actually happening. Because one of the things is, you know, dealing with women versus men, these men, I think overall from what I've seen, they want men. They don't want women. They want men. Oh, I want her to be logical, right? I don't want a woman that's a liar. And don't get me wrong, like, you know, we don't want to deal with liar people, men or women. But because of the nature of women's communication, right? An answer can genuinely change for a decent woman, right? It can genuinely change in 5 minutes, right? Complete north and south, right? And this is just a distinction, but a sort of weak-minded programmed male that's like, oh, you know, we're all the same. We're all unis, this type of bullshit. He's like, oh, she's a liar. No, she's not a liar. You're fucking dumb. There's a difference.
There is a difference. You know I do that, bro. You ain't gotta ask me. But one time, like, yeah, I'll do that shit. We'll leave you in control. I could definitely do that. You're right. When it would come to that, like you said, like you're no pill, and I come from that red pill thing. But here's the thing: when you're out here in the real world, what I'm seeing in the real world, and I tell dudes this all the time. All the guys that I rock with, I tell them all the time, I'm like, look, bro, you know, women do want men. Right. And I look at a lot of these guys out here moving around in the trenches, and I'm not mad at the women for not choosing these dudes. These dudes are shit, bro. Yep. Like you just look at them, look the way they carry themselves. Like it's just so much they need to learn. And I'm like, this is why this manosphere is a thing, because they do need to learn. Now, those guys who are willing to do the work, they will get the results that they're looking for. You know, and that may or may not be the answer, because a lot of these guys, they figure it out. Now they go from being invisible to being visible to women, and they think, okay, it's going to be like in the movies where, you know, I'm going to rescue her. It was going to be like, we're going to be, you know, life mates or whatever what they call it, soulmates. And he realized like, nah, that you got the wrong one. Like that chick right there is garbage. Right. And there's dudes out there who are garbage. So, and that's what I see when I see that pop the balloon shit. It's like there's just people out here who just y'all are trash.
But they're normal. They're average, and the standard is very fucking low, right? It's very low.
It's no standard. It's like you got to dig down to get to that bar. Like it's way down there, bro. I absolutely do that, man. It just,
cool.
it just.
Hey, I put my new contact in the backstage. Okay, cool. I had to, you know.
Yeah.
I gave my And
to the wrong one.
You know, I said I was done doing that shit when I got a new number years ago. And then I ended up doing it multiple times. It just happened. And yeah. So
why you just block, bro? Like, you know, you just block them forever.
Yeah, you know, because people use unblocked and do silly things, and I need to clean the slate, you know?
Yeah, so. Yeah. Now, you know, bro, I'm with you. The amount of work that people, like, when you're getting blocked, you know you're getting blocked. The amount of work that people put in trying to get around your blocks, using profiles on different platforms. I'm sure you've dealt with this. You got someone blocked on the platform, and then you start getting hit up by this person you don't know. These pictures you've never seen. Like, you get curious, like, who is this person? And you then come to find out it's the person you've been blocking. They're just using a different profile that they created to talk to you. And it's like, what do you want? Like, all right. So yeah, I mean, that's
you know, and look, I've had the, you know, mindset for some time that maybe distinguishes us in some ways of where we're coming from, you know, in terms of red pill. So I used to look at it as I was kind of starting to understand the world, right, growing up, as, well, you know, be pragmatic. I want this, I want that, going after things. And when we look at the exact conditions we're talking about and think that you're really not going to be able to change anything but yourself, right? You can change you. And being, you know, not to be corny, I'm just saying being the change that you want to see. So I do try to operate from the mindset of, for instance, not just going around banging women, right? I did this for some time, and
anymore. I was gonna say, you gotta add that on there. Anymore.
Anymore, right? And not that it doesn't happen at times still, where, you know, deal with one and then realize, you know, I don't want to deal with you. Should have paid closer attention to these details I saw in the beginning. Hire slow, fire fast. I'm a firm believer in that. If you know for certain that you're not going to, you know, be one. I'm not saying the one. I'm saying be one for a woman. I don't believe anymore, you know, in dragging it on like, oh, I can still get this or that. Nah, I just end it. Right? Just block, done, finished. And in theory, it'd be cool to be like, hey, this is the reason. Let me tell you why I'm blocking you. But I already know that none of them give a shit. They're not going to listen. They just try to argue their way into like, oh, but if you would just, you know, like try to negotiate. I'm not going to negotiate with you. I don't care. Like, you care. That's cool. But you probably care more now because I don't care. And that's some silly, stupid bullshit anyways. So my point is, once you're blocked, you're blocked. And that's it. There's no more to it. But the amount of times that, you know, what we're talking about, going around, trying to find a way, having other people contact you. And it's just like, man, I just cleaning the slate.
Yeah, bro.
Just, you know, be done with this.
I'm down the road a little bit for you because I'm older. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm at a point now where, you know, I'll go out with some cats, you know, they'll whatever, and they'll see some woman, and I'll talk to a woman or whatever, bring her over, bring the group over, whatever, and they're like, "Damn, bro, you could be smashing all these chicks." I'm like, "Yes, I could, but I'm not gonna. I don't want anything to do with them now." Well, so should I not mess with her? No, that's cool for you if that's what you want to do, right? But I'm not doing it, you know. And it's not a slight. It's just like, bro, been there, done that, tired of it. Like right now, I'm focused on my child, right? I got a few more years to really, you know, to get these messages, you know, these lessons, you know, in her head, and then I'm done. And bro, I ain't gonna lie, I'm looking at Peru. Lima's looking real good right now, man. I'm just telling you, Lima's looking real good. I you know, I can see myself there 4 to 6 months out the year, and everywhere else the other 6 months. But as far as America, bro, I'm done. And that's not to say that you can't find a good person in America. You can't find a good woman, or women, you can't find a good man. I'm not saying that, but it's much harder now. In my opinion, it's much harder now than it was, 30 years ago. So I gotta, and you're just gonna be a passport, bro. Like, no, I want to engage in the culture. I want to get to know the people. And if the people in that country are cool, I can see myself staying there. But if they're not cool, then I can go somewhere else. So that's where I am with it. But bro, it just, America today, the dating game is just not it, bro. It's just,
I
but
agree.
if you're out there trying to smash, man, this is the time to get it. Women, I mean, if you're a man, if you're a real man and you're out there doing men shit, like manly shit, you got tons of women trying to get at you, and they throwing it at you, bro. Like, I mean, you got to block it like Neo in the Matrix. It's coming at you like that. But if you're trying to find a significant other, a woman you can build with and have a family with, it's a lot of work, and it's gonna take time. And you're gonna get frustrated because you're gonna go through some women and like, damn it, she ain't it. She ain't it. Like you said, hire slow, fire fast, bro. As opposed to the other way around. Yeah, man. Let's definitely do that pop the balloon shit, bro. I think it'll be a good contrast between the two of us. And I'm really trying to reach out to these young dudes, like, bro, why are you dealing with this shit? Why are you on them TV shows? I can't imagine, bro. Like, why? Hey, would you do my pop the balloon? No, hell no, I won't do that shit.
I'd almost want to go on now. I hate the idea of these shows. Like, they're so fucking dumb. And like you said, it's like there's this humiliation. Actually, I said this earlier. It's like these dudes maybe have a humiliation fetish. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like,
that's a real thing, though, bro.
But I almost
you know what? Let's save it. Let's
though.
save it for your show. Yeah, we'll save it for the show because you got me thinking now, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's because you know me, I'm always looking for the angle. What's the game here? Like, what's the play?
Yeah.
What and these dudes like? What's the play? The fact that you're telling this guy says something stupid and he tries to, well, no, I didn't mean it like that. Why? You know what I mean? Why? So I don't know. We could definitely talk about it, bro. So I'm glad you popped up, man. Always a pleasure to see you, bro. I'm assuming everything's good up there where you are. Is it starting to get cold?
Yeah, it's getting a little chilly out. It seemed like in the last week, it was like weak. It just, flatlined. And it was like, all right,
I rock with that fall weather, man. That early winter shit, bro. That's when I put the coats on, the turtlenecks, man. That's when my fashion really comes to life, bro. I love that type shit. Love it, man. But down here it never gets. I mean, if it gets down to 65 degrees, people are putting on the shit you wearing right now. Like, that's how bad it is down here. Like, nah, I can't do that. But I'll put on a lightweight mock turtleneck or something. I still be kind of mad. Can barely wear Timbs down here, bro. Your feet be sweating.
Yeah, I was in Georgia for a winter. Yeah, pretty much a whole winter, I think. And it really didn't get that cold. In Georgia, right above you, in fact, like right on the border.
Yeah, that's that southern. Yeah, I mean, it gets breezy, but it doesn't get cold. It's like it's not sub nothing. Like, I'm back home in Cincinnati, bro. A bad winter day, you can go outside with a hot cup of coffee, throw it in the air, and it crystallizes. Like, it looks like powder. So I don't want that ever again. That you can have that shit. You know what I mean? But I can deal with the fall, bro. Like, I put on a coat, I put on some cool hats or whatever, some nice boots. That's the shit I'm looking for. But I can hardly ever. I got to take a trip so I can wear that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's cool, man. So I appreciate you coming through, man. Let me know when, bro. I'm down. Like I said, I'll be back on my normal schedule Monday. The storm did jack shit up down here, so my schedule's kind of messed up. But bro, we can, we plan it out, man. I love to get on there and talk my shit, especially with your audience, bro. They be wilding, man. I ain't gonna lie, man.
Yeah. Maybe you say you're getting back on Monday. Maybe like a Tuesday or Wednesday, something like that.
I'm cool with me, man, because we can go late or whatever, go early. I don't care. Like, we can Simo.
Cool.
You'll have the control, but I'll just Simo, so we're like it's streaming on both.
Yeah, definally. Yeah, I'll make a thumb. I don't know if you saw the new formatting, but I'm gonna be sticking with this for a bit, and so send me a message, and then I'll set something up tentatively, and we'll just agree on the day and time.
Bet. Let's make it happen, man. Appreciate you. I appreciate y'all out there checking this out, man. This was fun. I know the show started off, we were talking about insurance, Ken McElroy talking about all that, and we end with Old Joe and Base Oracle. I don't even know how to name this shit or put a thumbnail up for it because it's just all over the place. But it was fun, guys. Thank you so much for reaching out to me, checking on me. We are fine. Everything is good. We're back. Monday, we'll be back to our normal schedule. But until then, we'll be periodic. This is Base Oracle. I'm DL Saint. This is that Really Want to Know podcast. I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.
Nothing like I've ever seen. It's just a thing of beauty.
Darn, that's the end.